Street. We are hours away from the draft. Of course, the biggest question mark, guys, that remains, where will Shedeur Sanders land? RC, I'm going to start with you first here. The Steelers are the favorites to take him at 21. We've obviously heard him linked to the Saints, Browns, Giants. What is the best move in the first round for the Steelers?
You know what? I do think the best move is Shedeur Sanders at 21. I don't believe they value him enough right now to move up. But if you get Shedeur Sanders, you're bringing him into a building where it's trophies and family first, where he'll be insulated from some of the things we've seen leading up to the pre-draft process that he's experienced through the media. Also, it's a team that understands they need to continue to build around him, but with the skill positions, having a DK Metcalf and at least right now a George Pickens, a Pat Freiermuth gives him an opportunity to distribute the football the way we watched him do at Colorado behind a bad offensive line. But the one thing that you see about Shedeur Sanders is he's even moved further back in some of these mock drafts. And so that tells me that some of the things the Shefties and the Mel Kipers and the Phil Yates are hearing is that Shedeur Sanders could slip. So the Steelers at 21 will be an extremely interesting pick.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point that RC just made, is the fact that Shedeur is dropping, but Pittsburgh does need a quarterback. Is that a good fit for Shedeur?
100%. And number one, I would say this. When you look at all these draft prospects and the ability to be drafted, it's not about what number you're drafted, but the situation that you're drafted into. Culture means everything. And what better culture for Shedeur Sanders than the Pittsburgh Steelers? You talk about only having 3 coaches since 1969 when you had Chuck Noll, then you had Bill Cowher, and now Mike Tomlin Curley, who's the head coach of this football team. And RC just alluded to it. You look at the 2 wide receivers that they have, 2 number 1 physical specimens out wide on the outside, but then you have a guy that can be your security blanket in Pat Freiermuth. You have Jalen Warren still. They have a young offensive line. They have really invested into that offensive line over the last few years. Those guys can grow together along with Shedeur Sanders, and I love Arthur Smith as a play caller, so I'm really looking forward to Shedeur. If he's there at 21, going to the Steelers.
It's like a game we could play. Rodgers, Shedeur, the field for the Steelers, which I think we'll play at a later date, not today. RC, what we do know is that Cam Ward expected to hear his name called first by Tennessee, but then Cleveland picks number 2. What should Cleveland do with that second pick?
Pick a unicorn. You know, like when you're a little girl, you dream of princesses, and when we're little boys, we look at you guys and say, okay, they want princesses, and also they want a unicorn, right? Because women want the world. You learn that once you get married. And so to me, that's exactly what the Cleveland Browns have an opportunity to do, right? They have an opportunity to draft a guy in Travis Hunter who is adept at making plays on the offensive side of the ball as he is on the defensive side of the ball. To me, the best ball skills in all of this draft, and someone who we already know is comfortable with putting in the work to excel at 2 separate positions. And if you're the Cleveland Browns, you're stacked defensively at the cornerback position, but to add him to that wide receiver room would be huge.
Very interesting analogy that RC just said. Cleveland Browns, they're the woman in this situation. They could either get Travis Hunter or they could get Abdul Carter. Who makes more sense, do you think, for Cleveland?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Travis Hunter, a guy that can play on the offensive side of the ball, and that's why I would start him off. You talk about being able to learn a playbook. That would be feasible for Travis Hunter to start out that way. But you talk about the body control, the ability to run routes, natural ball catcher with his hands. You look at his pro day, he didn't use gloves. But then you could throw him on the opposite side of the defensive end and allow him to make plays. As you're seeing on the screen right now, he ran the end cut for the wide receiver. And to be able to have the skill set to know what a wide receiver is going to do because you play on that side of the ball as well is a big advantage for Travis Hunter. He's a generational talent. You cannot pass him up if you're the Browns at number 2.
It does not feel like this guy could get out up from number 1 or number 2. Yeah. Obviously not number 1, but number 2 because of what he can do on both sides of the ball. RC, picking at number 3 are the Giants. Options of taking either Abdul Carter, Hunter, a quarterback. What do you think would be New York's ideal move there?
Well, I think in our scenario, Travis Hunter is going to be gone. Yeah. So it's going to be Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter, along with Travis Hunter and a couple of other players, the Ashton Gentys, the Will Campbells. These are the dudes you look at the way that they play their position and where they stack up amongst their peers. This is a guy who is a top 5 pick, and no matter what draft he was a part of, the way that he was able to put pressure on the quarterback, the tackle for loss over 23 this season. But it's the pressure that he can apply simply based on his level of athleticism. I believe if you're the New York Giants, your hopes are that you get an Abdul Carter early on in this draft and you find a way to get a quarterback late that you can develop.
2 through and beyond, honestly, is so interesting when it comes to the NFL draft. Who would constitute a win for the Giants at number 3?
Abdul Carter, because we expect Travis Hunter to be gone. And Christine, you was with me on Countdown to College Game Day when I broke down his tape. You talk about the get off, the bend around the corner to arrive at the quarterback violently, but also force fumbles. And then he has the athleticism to drop in coverage as well. This young man is a monster. I cannot wait. He wears number 11 for Penn State for a reason. They have a rich history of guys at the linebacker pass rusher position being able to go high in the draft, but also being able to have a lot of success at the NFL level.
Hey, and we know the Giants, they like guys from Penn State. Remember Saquon Barkley?
exactly.
That all worked out really well.
Yep.
RC, the Patriots is a team we haven't talked a ton about. They got their franchise quarterback in Drake May via last year's draft, but they've got a lot of other needs. They pick at number 4. What's the best play for the Patriots?
And I'm not being a homer here, but the best play is to take Will Campbell from LSU. We're talking about a tackle that walked on to campus in Baton Rouge after coming from Shreveport and was an immediate starter, an immediate all-conference player, eventually an All-American. And you had the whole thing at the Combine. He has short arms. And my thing would be, well, go watch the film and see how many people those short arms choked out throughout his career at LSU. Drake May showed us last year that he could be an absolute dog. Now it's time to protect him.
All right, so Shay mentioned the fact that they already have their quarterback. They need guys to build around him, to protect him, to assist him. Who do you think is the best option there?
Well, RC, number 1, you're not being a homer. You're telling the truth. The proof is in the pudding. You take Will Campbell. I don't care how short his arms is. He played in the SEC. He showed that he can hold up. And the reason why you do it, Patriots quarterbacks last year collectively got sacked 52 times last season. You cannot allow that to happen once you know you have your franchise quarterback. You build that offensive line to allow that quarterback to throw the ball to Stephon Diggs, who they acquired in free agency, offensive lineman. It is no question about it.
Love it. We can't wait. Draft day, only a couple hours away, and then all these things that we're predicting will either be completely false or completely true. We will find out. RC,
I think we're right.
I think so too. Truthfully, I think
I'm right.
I think
I feel
you're
right.
You got a really long day there in Green Bay, buddy. So goodbye. We will see you later. Enjoy, Harry. We appreciate
Thank you guys.
as always. We are just getting started though here on SportsCenter. More from the NFL draft. So the Steelers actually trade up in the first round to get Shedeur Sanders. One of our insiders says yes, that could potentially happen. Cowboys making this word trips me up every time. Substantive deal during the draft?
Substantive!
I don't know. We'll find out what the Cowboys are going to do. Adam Schefter obviously is going to be here with an update on that. And in the midst of the NFL draft, the Cowboys and everything going on, the NBA playoffs also happening. Jimmy Butler hurt in the Warriors Game 2 loss against the Rockets. Shams is here with an update on his status going forward.
Okay, Shay, before we go to break, let's take a look at
Draft day. Big question. The headliner, where is Shedeur Sanders going to hear his name called? Dan Orlowski has more on one of the top quarterbacks in this year's class.
It's Shedeur Sanders' time, and he was the only quarterback to finish in the top 5 in touchdown passes, passing yards, and completion percentage in 2024, and he excelled despite a suspect offensive line. Sanders dealt with absolute chaos up front and was sacked an FBS high 94 times in the last 2 seasons. Defenses brought the heat, but he responded with 14 touchdown passes against the blitz last season, 9 more than he had in 2023. Shedeur's game relies on rhythm and timing, and he's flawless with a clean pocket. He completed 82% of those passes on plays when he wasn't pressured last season. Best in the FBS and the only quarterback over 80%. He's at his best throwing receivers open with anticipation and led the FBS in completions to open targets in 2024. With solid offensive line play, Sanders will be the ultimate point guard in the NFL.
Thank you, Dio. All right, joining us from Green Bay is our NFL front office insider, Mike Tannenbaum. And Mike T, this is where you make your money. You got to put the GM hat back on and think about Shedeur Sanders. Been linked now a lot to the Steelers in Pittsburgh. They pick at 21. But if you are in love with a guy like Sanders, do you trade up to go get him?
Yes, Shay, you have to. I've been in a similar situation back in 2009 with the Jets where we needed a quarterback. Brett Favre had left us to go to the Vikings. And knowing that Aaron Rodgers at best is 50-50 playing, the Steelers have to be in a mode, Shay, of we have to go get him. Shedeur Sanders would be a material upgrade to any quarterback they've had since Ben Roethlisberger, as Dano just alluded to. So you want to take any of the guesswork, any of the variability out of the equation, be proactive, go pay the bill, don't negotiate, even if it means giving up a third-round pick, maybe a future pick next year, because again, they don't have a second-round pick, to go get Shedeur Sanders and not wait at 21.
We're all waiting to see where Sanders falls, obviously, but if there are trades involved that move up to go get him, that makes things even more interesting later on tonight in the draft. That is one of the quarterbacks we're keeping our eye on. There are quite a few, though. Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shuck, still waiting to hear their names called, obviously, later tonight. Let's go through all these guys and landing spots for them, and let's start with the Ole Miss product and Jackson Dart.
Okay, Shay, I love Jackson Dart to the New York Giants, trading up from pick number 34 to 26 with the Rams. I think he is a big, strong-arm quarterback who's a 3-year starter who I think could play really well in the Northeast under Brian Daboll. He's a better athlete than people realize. Similar, not as good as, but similar to Josh Allen. Brian Daboll had a lot of success with him, obviously in Buffalo. Next, Tyler Shuck, the quarterback from Louisville. I have him going pick 32 to the Cleveland Browns, actually flipping one pick with the Eagles. The reason that's so important is Tyler Shuck has had durability issues. If he has to sit, possibly, you get that 5th-year option. So one spot is really important, and you could flip, hopefully for not a lot from Cleveland's standpoint, get Travis Hunter, then come back at the bottom first round, flip with Philly to get Tyler Shuck. And then lastly, Jalen Milroe, quarterback, University of Alabama. Shay, I like him, number 40 overall to the New Orleans Saints. Here's why. New head coach is Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore had success in Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Milroe's ceiling to me is very similar to Jalen Hurts. May not happen overnight, but the run-pass combination is very similar. Get him at 40. Maybe he sits a little bit for a year, but long-term, the Saints may get great value in the middle of the second round, and Kellen Moore gets his quarterback of the future.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Initially, we had thought that the Saints maybe would take Shedeur Sanders, but then maybe waiting to the second round and taking a guy like Milroe. Good comparison there.
I've attended 3 different colleges throughout my college journey. Father's name is Calvin Ward. Patrice Ward is my mother. Been there all my life. They've been to every one of my youth games since I got to middle school, high school. They missed 0 games of my college career. In Miami, it'll only be a 2-hour trip from Texas to Miami. They're playing, being at every NFL game, no matter we playing in the United States or we playing overseas. They enjoy watching me play. It means a lot to me to have them be a part of every game, be a part of my life every day. So I've been blessed. They've sacrificed financially for me, time, just putting me in positions to showcase my skills. So, I'm always going to support them how they support me.
Continuing our look at some of the best plays from the top draft prospects. This was a viral throw from the unexpected number 1 overall pick. That's my quarterback, Cam Ward, out of Miami, hitting the crossbar. That is 70 yards, people. 70 yards away. As we know, it is draft day, and while Cam Ward is going number 1, that's pretty much a lock. The biggest mystery is where Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders will land. Deion's son has been a winner wherever he's gone. He played 2 seasons under his dad at Jackson State and then followed him to Colorado. He was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year last season.
SportsCenter on the Road is presented by Geico. Switch and save. Get more with Geico.
Senior NFL insider Adam Schefter joins us from Green Bay. So, Shefty, we're hours away from the draft. The biggest question remains. We've been talking about it all day. Where will Shedeur Sanders land? The Steelers are the betting favorites to take him at number 21. What are you hearing?
Well, there could be a conversation that needs to be had if and when Shedeur Sanders makes it to 21, if he even does, right? That's what you have to go through all these picks for. But if Shedeur Sanders happens to be there for Pittsburgh at 21, I would think that there's going to be an organizational conversation about whether this is the pick that they want to make. I think Mike Tomlin, the head coach, is a fan of Shedeur Sanders. I think Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator, is a fan of Shedeur Sanders. Now, this is a team that has other needs as well. They still could use defensive lineup. They still could use running back. They still could use help elsewhere. So do you want to do that? Let's also keep in mind the Steelers don't have a second-round draft pick that went to Seattle for DK Metcalf, so they can't wait for the second round to get a quarterback because by the time that pick comes around, it's not theirs. They'd have to wait till the third round. So, again, I would expect there to be a long, hard conversation that would involve ownership that would determine whether or not Pittsburgh picks Shedeur Sanders, and I think everybody's waiting to see what the final answer will be.
Yeah, regardless of where he lands, we'll be talking about it for weeks to come. So with Cam Ward, he's expected to hear his name called first overall by Tennessee. So let's focus on picks 2 through 4. What can you share about Cleveland's plans right now?
Well, look, everybody has heard them talk about Travis Hunter, and Browns general manager Andrew Berry compared him to Shohei Ohtani. So anytime you get a GM comparing a player to Ohtani, that gives you an idea of how strongly that they feel about a certain player. The Browns also, it's been out there that they've entertained calls. Nobody believes that that's going to happen right now. And so the Cleveland Browns will continue to sit there in the power position at number 2 with the chance to get the player that many people believe is the best player in the draft, Travis Hunter. The New York Giants would be on the clock. A lot of mystery and intrigue about whether they would take quarterback at number 3. It doesn't feel that way, but it can't be ruled out. And Abdul Carter clearly would be a player in play in that slot at number 3. The Giants have drafted Kayvon Thibodeau to rush the passer. They could be drafting Abdul Carter here to complement Brian Burns as well. Would give the Giants a tremendous pass rush, and that would leave the New England Patriots sitting at number 4. Clearly, at one point, the Patriots could have had the top pick. They fell back to number 4, and the people across the league believe that left tackle Will Campbell is Mike Vrabel's kind of player. Bring your lunch pail, guy who loves football, guy who exerts maximum effort, and so Will Campbell could be on the clock at number 4. So really, it looks like right now the first 4 picks in order would be Ward, Hunter, Carter, and Campbell. That's the way it's shaping up going in to tonight's draft.
Okay, we'll see what exactly happens eventually later tonight. Let's talk about the Cowboys because we can't do anything without talking about them. They have the 12th pick. Jerry Jones said Tuesday that Dallas is working on, quote, substantive trades. What is the latest with Dallas?
Well, there have been no trades so far for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not sure that any is close in sight. Obviously, everybody is manning the phones right now, taking calls about moving up or moving back in the draft. But if Dallas sticks where it is right now, at the 12th overall pick, I think a lot of people across the league believe that they could be in the market for a wide receiver. Obviously, there's the Micah Parsons contractual situation, but they need help passing, somebody to complement CD Lamb. And it looks like a wide receiver could very well be in the mix for the Dallas Cowboys at number 12. If they stay there, there could be any number of targets. Ted McMillan, Matthew Golden, 2 wide receivers that I think would get the Cowboys' attention and could be in play at number 12.
Everybody, of course, waiting for Shedeur Sanders and where he lands and waiting to see if Dallas does something smart with their NFL draft pick. Draft weekend would not be as fun without some trades. We haven't seen any yet. So which teams are you hearing could be the most active?
Well, Christine, if we look at the back of the background, we've seen the Texans general manager, Nick Caserio, make at least 3 trades per draft for each of the drafts that he's been in charge of for the Houston Texans. The Philadelphia Eagles have 20 picks over the next 2 drafts. They're armed with a lot of draft capital. There's the Texans draft pick capital. And again, they have the ability and the ammunition to make some moves here, and there's already been talk about Houston trying to move up in the draft. There's Philadelphia's draft capital, 8 picks this year, another 12 next year. They're sitting there at 32 where somebody might want to come up and take a quarterback potentially. They do have needs at safety, defensive tackle, linebacker. We'll see how it shakes out, but there's been no trade so far, but I would think tonight it'll start picking up, and it'll start picking up rapidly tonight.
All right, it is Christmas morning for Adam Schefter. Everyone at home, you know the drill. Keep your eyes and ears on Adam. You know something is going to break very soon. Adam Schefter, enjoy your day. Thank you. Been our NFL draft analyst, Matt Miller, live from Green Bay, Wisconsin. And Matt, we want to know who some of these top projected players remind you of. So give us your best player comps, starting with the potential number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward.
Cam Ward to me is Jordan Love, someone that can create with his arm angles. He can move in the pocket, but he moves not to run. He moves to throw. We saw that so often this past year at Miami with Cam's ability to find those passing lanes, to manipulate defenses with his arm angle, and he can dial up big-time velocity with his arm strength, with his athletic ability. He's got that thick core that allows him to really push the ball down the field. A lot like Jordan Love, he's going to have to learn to overcome some of that want to hold on to the ball. He's going to have to learn to be a little bit faster with his processing, but he has the arm and he has the body type to be a top 10 NFL quarterback with some progression. Now, I look at Abdul Carter. This one might be cheating, but I see Micah Parsons. They both went to Penn State. They both wore number 11. But it's also the fact that they both started their careers at linebackers before moving to an edge rusher position. The first step quickness is elite from both. They are both so good at spying and chasing quarterbacks. Abdul Carter this past year, the best defensive end in college football, maybe the best player in college football, and he can have an impact a lot like Micah Parsons had early in his rookie year and in his entire NFL career. He could be a premier pass rusher coming off the edge. Now, Travis Hunter, I know folks said Shohei Ohtani. How about this one? I think Odell Beckham Jr. plus Denzel Ward, because you're going to get him on both sides of the ball. As a wide receiver, he has elite ball skills, elite ability to fight for the ball despite being 6'1", 188 pounds. Every pass is on both sides of the ball. We saw him do it at Colorado. He can do it in the pros. Ashton Jeanty, my favorite running back in this class, and I see Alvin Kamara, another shorter, thick back, but great contact balance, great agility, the open field vision. He brings an asset as a wide receiver out of the backfield, but it's all about contact balance and running to daylight for Ashton Jeanty. That's what he did best. Watch him against Oregon or Penn State if you want to see him play up against a Power 5, Power 4 team. He was great in both of those contests. He is a blue chip prospect in this class, and some of the most likely going to come off the board in the top 5 or 6 picks tonight. He is a special talent. And finally, the hottest name in the draft, Shedeur Sanders. I see Jared Goff, a quarterback who has good, not great arm strength, who has good, not great mobility. But what he is great at, accuracy and toughness in the pocket. Now, you'd like to see him take fewer sacks with that body type at 6'1", 200 pounds. But I love his toughness, his willingness to stand in. And even when you do get a shot on him, he's the first guy up off the turf. He's back in the huddle, ready to make the next play. So his accuracy and his toughness are hallmarks. A lot like Jared Goff, he needs a clean pocket to operate. But if you give him playmakers, he'll carve up your defense.
Goff plus his personality, that would be crazy. He finished in the top 5, by the way, Goff did, in completion percentage last season. So that's pretty good. Thank you so much, Matt. Speaking of Shedeur, he was on Max Crosby's podcast recently, The Rush with Max Crosby. And Sanders mentioned who his favorite quarterback-wide receiver combo in the NFL is right now.
Who's your Mount Rushmore of quarterback and wide receiver duos all time?
Whoever going to be the quarterback for DK Metcalf and George Pickens, whoever that is.
That's a hell of a duo.
Somebody in Malik Neighbors. I don't know who it's going to be. Darius Slayton. I don't know who's the quarterback going to be.
Wait a minute. Did he just give away what's going to happen in a couple hours? We say hello to our ESPN bet analyst, Anita Marks. So her and I looked at each other when we heard that. We're like, okay, Shedeur Sanders going to be drafted tonight. It's likely going to be in the first round. What is your best bet, given that sound, and what you know of what's going to happen?
Will he be drafted tonight? That is the question. My best bet for him is over 21.5. A lot of people think he's going to the Giants. Don't believe so. In fact, don't believe that he is the number 2 quarterback on the Giants board. Many people think the Saints. I'm told that's not going to happen. So that 21 is sitting there because it's the Steelers. But he's not an AFC type quarterback in the AFC North. You need big, you need strong, you need somebody with big hands who can play in those weather conditions. It's just, it's not his speed, it's not his groove, and also turned off a lot of general managers in the interview process. So I do believe that Sanders is going to fall. So over 21.5 is probably my best bet for him tonight.
Okay, so I'm putting her on the spot now. Do you think second round? Over 21.5 could be late first, but do you think second round?
Well, it's interesting because you've got that over under 2.5 quarterbacks that very well could go in the first half. I would not be shocked if Sanders drops into the second round. Would not be shocked. I don't have him as my number 2 quarterback. In fact, I have Jackson Dart as my number 2 quarterback. And if he is selected number 2, you could get that at plus 175. And I am going to go over the 2.5. And here's why. You've got a number of quarterbacks in the last 24 hours that I've spoken to, a lot of scouts that have really impressed a number of general managers and head coaches. Jalen Milroe, dynamic, huge arm, fast, smart. In fact, I had a few general managers tell me they think he's too smart. He overthinks. Great young man. A lot of general managers and head coaches have already fallen in love with him. And then Tyler Shock from Louisville. He's 25 years old, very mature, coming in. He's 6'5", 225, so he comes in. He's going to dominate, all right, behind that offensive line. And I heard that some general managers have told me that he had the best tape. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's the best quarterback in this draft, but definitely they've seen some good things. So as of right now, I'm leaning over 2.5 quarterbacks because let's not forget, you draft a quarterback in the first round, you get that fifth-year option.
Right, and the money and all of the other things. I feel like with all of the rumors and all the things surrounding the draft tonight, Tyler Shock's name is one that I feel like